So I'm here today with a great friend of mine and a business colleague, Josh Sicchitano. And Josh and I have worked together for at least, let's see, it was what, 2018 when I transferred into your office?
I think it was 2020 is when.
Was it 2020?
I think it was 2020.
I was a COVID
Yeah, because
kid.
Max was still around 2018.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Yes, Max. So yeah, and it's exciting to get an opportunity to interview somebody that is in our business, that has done what I do, but also has taken a different route because he's in the district manager role. And so there's a lot of differences between what a day-to-day representative who's out selling blades every day, and then the guy who's at the office, really kind of behind the scenes, creating more people to go sell blades. So welcome, Josh. Glad to have you here with me.
Sounds good, man.
So to start off, the first question I have is, what inspired you to build a career with vector marketing? Was there really like a pivotal moment that you knew this was the place for you?
I don't think there was a pivotal moment. After being an assistant manager with Scotty and PA for a little bit, I just really got to see kind of his lifestyle more than anything. He really made me, I don't know, feel valued at the workplace. He empowered me at a high level. Talked about the income opportunity, and I always thought it'd be cool to kind of have my own business. And with Vector, it's kind of like franchising. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, we got proven models, company funding. So there's it's like starting your business, but nowhere near as much risk.
Sure. You're kind of in business for yourself, but not by yourself.
Right. Yeah, we love to say that.
So you mentioned PA, so that's where you're originally from, is that right?
Yep, about an hour south of Pittsburgh.
Okay, an hour south of Pittsburgh. So you ended up in the West Cleveland market. Now you're living here in Canton. So clearly you're committed to this position because you've allowed it to take you from Pennsylvania to West Cleveland, down here to Canton, and you've stuck with it all this time. Basically, Scotty Brown is the division manager for the West Pennsylvania area. So he manages several offices throughout that area. And Scotty, shout out to him. I mean, he's one of the most giving people I know, as far as like just he wants to see every single person around him succeed.
For sure.
And I can definitely see why the two of you clicked, because I see that in you as well. You're constantly looking out for the best interest of everybody that's on your team. Okay, but looking back, what was one of your biggest early failures at Vector, and how did it shape the leader you are today?
That's a fun question. One of my earliest failures, for me, there was two. So one, as a sales rep, so I got good at getting referrals pretty quickly when I was new. I averaged 10 plus. I remember a couple months into the job, my averages were way down. And, in our business, we always say, like, one of the biggest things you got to do for referrals is you got to memorize your stuff.
Yeah. And
I had done that right away, but then I got a little bit of an ego and decided to start changing things. I thought I had it down, and I wasn't getting as many referrals anymore. So I asked Scotty for some feedback, and he was like, you don't have the script memorized anymore. Essentially, it was the short version. Mm-hmm. And I re-memorized it out of spite, like to essentially prove the system wrong.
Yeah.
Was a goal. And I re-memorized it. He walked me through the psychology of why it's important, and I started getting a lot of referrals again. So that was an initial failure of just not getting the big head, and not trusting the process and leaderships that come above you. The other initial failure that came to mind is it was about the fourth-ish training I ran for new sales reps up in Cleveland. And in terms of fire number and just driving advertisements, getting touches. We were competing nationally with some divisional headquarters. We had 60 something people.
Wow.
Set, like 40 something show, ran out of chairs.
So for our audience, what does set and show mean? Like if you're basically
so general audience, got it. So yeah, we had 60 people were signed up for our sales training seminar, give or take. In our business, there is a certain amount of attrition that happens because sales isn't for everyone,
right?
So
sure.
We had about 43 show up though.
Oh, wow, that's a good show.
It was good, and to this day, it's still the biggest training I've ever ran. And I mean, in our business, if you have, we launched like 30 people.
Okay.
So launch for the general is that means finish training, because day one of training is kind of like a second interview. In many ways, like you got to get to see if what they said in the interview is actually true. And we ended up having 30 start the job. If I train 30 people right now, I'd expect like 30,000 plus revenue to be generated pretty quickly. Yeah. And they flopped. They sold a number I don't even know if I feel comfortable sharing. So the biggest lesson is just getting the right people on the bus, just really pursuing the best people. And by having those best people, naturally, even like if it was not as lopsided, where it was more lower performers versus high performers, if you have more high performers, naturally those lower performers are going to get elevated.
Sure.
Versus the inverse, which is not what we wanted for business.
Right. That makes sense. And every one of those situations, you go through and you live and you learn, and it's always a fine balance because, the reality is we can offer anybody we want a position with the company. And when we sometimes, there's a balance we always have to find between believing in every single person that steps through the door versus understanding what the reality is about what they're going to produce for the business, right? I think that's true of any business too. You get the wrong message to the wrong market, it's just not going to happen for them. And I think that's a parallel in the district manager position. So this is to flip this over and put a more positive, get into a more positive topic here. So can you share a story about a sales rep you mentored who completely transformed their life because of their experience at Vector?
Yeah, the first one that comes to mind is Colin Maddock. So Colin, he worked with me in 2017, and psych major, starting to be a psychologist. When he started, he had another job at a BMW dealership. He was a porter, and in our business, we have the Alliance, right? SC2, biggest sales contest of the year.
I'll ask the question too. So we're talking about Colin, right? Colin?
Colin, yeah.
Yeah. So you said that Colin was one sales rep you mentored who completely transformed their life because of their experience at Vector, right?
Yeah.
So go from there.
Yeah. So Colin, he worked with me in 2017. And as you know, during the summer, we have conferences, we have sales contests. Our biggest one of the year is SC2 Summer Conference 2, right?
So what happens at these conferences, by the way?
So at the conferences, it's more than anything, I would say half of it is just solely instructional, just hearing from the best in the business. Obviously, we get guest speakers sometimes.
Sure.
But it's not just instructional on how to sell more Cutco. We focus a lot on those other skills for life. That's something we always talk about here in our business. So I remember one year was like John Israel, and it was just the Mr. Thank You project, just being more grateful and maintaining that perspective. So there's definitely some instruction for sure. A whole lot of networking, gives our representatives a chance to meet each other, rub elbows with the best, see the bigger picture of the company versus their office, wherever that may be. I think in many cases, for me at least, going to those conferences, I'll get some good stuff from the speakers and the keynotes, but honestly, probably more times than not, the biggest takeaways I get is just those random sidebar conversations from the networking.
Sure. Yeah. I've had plenty of times where I'm at a conference and, there's, all the learning is great. And I've got pages full of notes. And then I sit down with somebody and just have a cup of coffee with them or lunch and just start asking a few questions. And next thing you know, my eyes are open to a new way of thinking or a bigger and better, picture.
Yeah.
So I think that's definitely true. And so explain what the push is and what SC2, you said that's the biggest one.
Yep.
And by the way, I know all this, I'm just sharing this for the sake of the of you guys, our audience, but tell me, so go ahead and now explain what happened with Colin with the SC2 push and all that.
Yeah. So a push is just a big sales contest. The SC2 one, so throughout the year we have multiple conferences. When it comes, like in each conference, as you know, serves a certain objective depending on the time of the year. Like we have our summer kickoff conference where all management staff to refine their programs for our summer sales campaign, which since we work with so many students is where a lot of our new revenue is generated. And that's where we find a lot of what we call our development to retain and turn into future managers, career reps like yourself, things like that. So SC2 is, depending on the time of the year, I've seen it move around. It's usually mid-July to like early August. And it's the biggest conference we have throughout the year from a sales capacity. And leading up to it, every conference we have what we call a push. And a push is just a sales contest. There's prizes. Some people compete just to get their name known. Some people just want the bragging rights. Some people, they just want to see how much money they can make that fast and just, compete. So Colin, he had his other job leading up to that. And then throughout the year, as you know, we have division meetings, which is for, the audience sake, our division of Northeast Ohio, Northern West Virginia gets together for a day. And at that leading up to SC2, it's the only, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin, but I'm pretty sure it's the only conference in sales push throughout the year that we actually create like the alliance.
Yeah, I don't know of any others that we do that with.
And again, for viewers' sake, the alliance is like the all-star starting lineup, right? And Colin, he was hesitant about leaving his other job because, we make most of our money through commissions.
Sure.
And he was 19, 18 at the time. Obviously, his parents felt some sort of way about that, but he went to that division meeting. He heard about the alliance. His buddy from the Akron office was wanting to do it too. So he quit his other job and just decided to trust the process. Colin ended up selling $23,000 in our 2.5-week sales contest. He was the number 5 sales rep in the entire Midwest region, 8 states. He ended up making like 10 grand that summer. And the bulk of that was in that 2.5 weeks and like a week after that. And I didn't know it at the time, but a couple weeks later, Colin went away to school and he had sent me a text I still have somewhere, and was like, hey man, you didn't know this, but like I was going through a lot of personal stuff. And that was really cool. We're still in touch to this day. That a year later, though, so he went into his sophomore year studying psychology. A year later, he landed a grad school level internship.
Wow.
As a clinical psychologist, like over in Medina. He did that for a summer, and then it impacted him a ton. He wanted to come back the next summer. Was my right-hand guy as an assistant manager, just to pay it forward. And then he actually, when he graduated, decided to pursue real estate. And
all right.
Took the sales experience and ran. One of his clients actually became the agency he worked for. And,
okay.
Went on to do some crazy cool stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was just really cool watching him kind of find himself and the empowerment, the self-esteem, the confidence, the professionalism, and then use the experience literally as a stepping stone to get a killer internship that like you have to be in grad school to usually get.
Yeah. Well, I hope he's using Cutco as a closing gift, as a realtor. That's all I'm saying, is he better be. If not, then I got to have a talk with him. So, so what has been your most fulfilling moment as a district manager so far?
Oh man, most fulfilling. There's so many things that are fulfilling for different ways. You know what I mean? Yeah, the most fulfilling moments for me are definitely the little thank yous. Just it's not the applause and stuff like that. The stuff that I actually take with me and really keep is when you know that you truly have made an impact on someone.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many examples that I could give. I would say those are the most fulfilling. Couple others is definitely, our SC2.
Yeah.
I think of 2 years ago when we just absolutely dominated. That was fun. It was out of, I think we had 90 sales locations that year, give or take, in our 8-state region. We were number 3 in total business, number 2 in new business, which for audience sake is just newer sales reps, not people like you, not the professionals. We take them out of that. So new business, we gauge that. And then we were the number 1 district team all together, again, across the 8 states. Finished strong too. We had our first 50K sales week that week. And I remember just everyone working until I think we hit it at 11 p.m. And it was constant. Hey, did we hit it yet? Our group chat was blowing nuts, and that was just really cool.
Yeah, those kind of weeks are fun for everyone. I wish that, and I don't know. I mean, a lot of businesses never get that kind of. They never experience that. They experience it in a different way, but there's something about that group, that team shooting for the goal at the very last minute, hitting it at the buzzer, calling in, that last pair of shears that get you over the total for the whole office, which is really cool. And there's just something to be said for that.
Yeah.
So, when you think about your own mentors at Vector, what is the best piece of advice someone gave you that you still use today?
The best.
Yeah, I know we get a lot of advice at Vector. We get a lot of advice. There's a lot of training. There's a lot of support. There's a lot of literature to read. But when you think about it, I think, for me, and I'll share mine. Maybe that'll help just, to get that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your number one.
Well, many, many years ago, there was, and you know who this man is. His name was Marty Dimitrovich, and he passed away many years ago, but he was with us before I started, or before I, when I started Cutco, and for many years he was the region manager and he had a talk that I think Jeff still gives to this day.
Okay.
And it's just called "Do It Now."
Okay. I don't know it by name.
Just do it now. And now is what's going to get you what you want. Now is the answer. Now. And, what's so easy for us to say, I'm going to put that off till tomorrow, or I'm going to do that, later or whatever. Just do things now. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of times we put little things off, right? And those little things we put off add up. And then the next thing you know, we find ourselves behind where we're nowhere near where we wanted to be, because we allowed little things to get in the way of just doing things now. Do it now was like one of his biggest mantras, you know? And I think that's probably the best piece of advice, because I find when I do follow that advice, I get ahead. When I don't follow that advice, I'm always behind, Tony Carlston once said something. It made a massive difference in my life. He said that, when you blame things like the market, you take all of the control of the situation out of your own hands. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like you can't, if you blame your success or your failure on anything other than yourself, you can look at and you can give credit to the people who've helped you. You can definitely acknowledge challenges you face. But if you say, well, I'm not doing well because of the market, you just took all of your power away.
I said it to you last week, lower the expectations of how we think things should go and raise the expectations of how we should show up.
Yeah.
And I heard that from a speaker at one of our national manager conferences. And I think that goes hand in hand with what you just said.
Sure.
Like if we got to take accountability and show up the right way. Scott used to always say, focus on what you can control. Justin, our division manager, used to always talk about giving the stamp of approval at the end of the day and just doing the right thing. So a lot of them, they do go hand in hand for sure, of just going after it, focusing what you can control, and just do the thing, man.
Yeah.
Just do the thing.
Just do it.
That's
like
it.
Nike.
They go hand in hand for sure. A lot of those, and I think of how you do one thing's how you do everything. I freaking hate that one.
That one is a tough pill to swallow, isn't it?
That one is a tough pill to swallow.
Because you have to. I don't think it's always 100% accurate. I think we all have bad days, right? There's days when I know I'm phoning it in, and that's not. If I let that define me that day and say, well, the way I do one thing is the way I do everything, I'm going to phone it in every day from now on. That's not a good thing, right? And if I have a low self-esteem, that can actually cause me to go down that negative road. Yeah. But the truth is, what it means is take responsibility for the thing in front of you, do your absolute best, and leave the results to God. That's the way I look at it, right? Leave the results to I say God. Whatever people want to say, that's fine with it, but I think that's a good point for sure.
Yeah. Well, on that note, something, my mantra of this year, Kristen will tell you, is faith versus fear. It's both of how we choose to respond to the unknown.
Right.
And I was listening to another podcast, and I don't remember who.
You don't remember who?
I think it was Ed Miletz.
Okay.
But I don't remember who he was talking to. I think he was talking to someone and actually referenced another podcast he did. He was like someone involved in racing.
Okay.
And it was like, do you know what makes me a better racer than everyone else? And that's like, no, I don't. He's like, well, others slow down when they see the smoke and there's a crash. I just drive right through it. I just trust the unknown, so faith versus fear, man.
Yeah.
It's all how we choose to respond to the unknown.
Drive into that smoke. That's crazy. But yeah.
Yeah.
I would never do that.
No. When I heard that, I was like, dang.
That's nuts. But I did ride bulls when I was younger. So that's, same type of type of craziness, I guess.
Yeah.
So you got to be a certain kind of crazy to do those things, right?
That's true. I mean, that's entrepreneurship, though, in a lot of ways.
It is. It really is. You know, sometimes you got to run toward the thing. And I try to teach my kids like that overcoming fear is such an important learned skill.
100%.
It's not natural. It's natural for us to give into our fear, to shrink, fight or flight type of thing, right? And to run towards something you're afraid of, that's, you know, that it takes conditioning to do that. And I try to teach my kids that too. So, well, hey, outside of work, because so far all we've talked about is Vector and Cutco and, you know, and conferences. What's a personal achievement you're incredibly proud of?
Personal achievement. I mean, there's a lot, man. If we take work out of it, there's the two biggest achievements for sure is getting engaged to Kristen. You know, I'm sure you've probably heard the expression "best sale ever made."
Mm-hmm. So. Oh, I know. I closed a good one. She's upstairs.
Right. So that's personal achievement, and then just being a father, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can relate to probably both of those. There's
absolutely
very little things that are more fulfilling for sure.
Now, how is she? She's a little over a year old now, right?
Turns 1 year.
Sorry we missed her birthday, man.
You did?
We were actually out. What?
You didn't?
It didn't?
No.
When is it?
Next Sunday.
Oh.
Literally this Sunday coming up, May 4th.
Well, then I'm going to be there. I'm so sorry, man. Yeah, I thought, that's right. May the 4th be with you, right?
Yeah. Because she turns 1
May
on
the
Revenge
4th.
of the 5th. Yeah.
That's right.
Little Cinco de Mayo, baby.
May the 4th. Yeah, she was born on Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
That's I mean, dude, you kind of, I don't know if Kristen would be comfortable. Are you comfortable telling the story?
One day.
Yeah, not here, not now?
Oh, definitely not right here.
No? Okay. Because we know the story, you know,
right.
But yeah, okay. So I'll cut out. I won't even tease that with people.
Yeah, we'll cut it out when you need to say her birthday or anything.
No, the birthday thing maybe, but because it's okay. I'm willing to admit that I'm not perfect. I mess dates up all the time, man. But I'm glad I didn't miss it because I thought for some reason I must have. When did you send out the invite? Like a month ago, right?
A month ago, yeah.
And I must have thought it was April 4th, and we went out of town or something. And anyway, so I'm glad. May 4th. Okay.
May 4th, man.
All right. Here's these are some bonus questions.
Okay.
All right. Are you comfortable, by the way?
Yeah.
You having fun?
I'm having fun.
Yeah. Are you feeling like you're getting to share some good stuff?
I do for sure. There's just some of the questions, man. There's just so many rabbit holes that we could go down.
We could sit here for hours and really talk about it.
We could.
You know, I mean, when I sit here and I think, one of the things I'm working on is because I could sit here and share so much about Vector.
Right.
I want this to be about you. You're my guest. You're not, you know what I mean?
Right.
They're not watching this to necessarily hear from me. They want to hear a little bit from me, but they want to hear from you. You know what I mean? So, because dude, 30 years of Vector stories is what I've got. But, when you're having a tough day, what is your go-to strategy to reset and refocus?
Oh, that's easy. Read my favorite things list.
Okay.
That's it. So my favorite things list, something I learned from Trent Booth, another Vector guy.
Yeah.
Years ago. It's just I have so many journals. There's so much we could talk about journal if we want to go down that wormhole. But a section of my journal, which has now become multiple pages, is just my favorite things list. So if you're having a bad day and you read 60 different things that just you can't help but smile.
Yeah.
It's so easy to just reset.
So, what are some things on your favorite things list, man?
Favorite things? Oh man. So many things. Daughters laugh.
Yeah.
That's like,
oh, I know, man.
That is a great thing. Deep conversations with loved ones, like real heart to hearts. Love those moments. Concerts, specifically crowd surfing. at the
Okay.
concerts.
So you've crowd surfed a few times, huh?
I have. It's one of my favorite things in the world. Have you ever done it?
I've never, ever, I don't think I have.
It is such a euphoric feeling.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's incredible.
It's just like zombies are throwing you around, kind of.
Yeah.
But no, you're safe. It's concerts.
So you've never gotten injured crowd surfing?
No, never. Yeah, concerts are great.
Yeah. Best concert you've ever been to?
Project Revolution, my very first one.
Project Revolution, and they are.
So
what kind of music is that?
It was kind of like a Warped Tour.
Okay.
So, like there's Ozfest that Ozzy Osbourne does, and then there's Warped Tour, which is
I've been to the Warped Tour.
Okay, yeah. So Project Revolution was Linkin Park's.
Okay.
And they were the headliner. They had so many people.
I used to love Linkin Park, man.
Yeah.
Back in the karaoke days, me and my buddy had. Because I think I used to have a DJ business, and I was karaoke Kevin.
I know you love karaoke.
No, actually, that was my business for a while.
I didn't know that.
I used to be a karaoke DJ, and I called myself Karaoke Kevin, and I was everywhere. So, but me and my buddy used to sing in the end all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Dude, it was a great show. It was my first time crowd surfing, first time in the pit, moshing. It was 2008. So that was when I was first getting into like metalcore and some of the heavier rocks. And
okay.
It was kind of a weekend thing too. So it was a birthday gift for one of my best friends. And so me and two of our other friends all just crashed at his house for like the weekend, and it was just awesome.
It sounds cool, man.
Yeah.
Sounds like a good time. So concerts?
Yeah, concerts.
What else? Give me one more thing off your favorite things list.
I mean, there's so many. A delicious meal that I've never had before, like in a foreign country. Like trying new food, like, and preferably not the expensive. Like you just go to a random spot, hole in the wall, and you just find this amazing meal, and you're just like
eat like a local, right?
Yeah. And it's just so. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think not that we haven't really traveled together because managers and reps typically don't.
Right, we did it once
in Planet Hollywood in Cancun, right?
I was thinking Madrid.
Well, I didn't go to Madrid, but we did the Cancun. Were you in? Did you go? You guys went to Cancun, didn't you?
We've gone to Cancun
for it's coastal areas is what.
Yeah, I think they did that one. Did they do that as a national trip?
They did. Yeah, it was actually right after COVID. We were able to use the credits that we accumulated. Because remember, they were going to do they were going to do the ANZ trip.
Right.
They were going to do the Australia, New Zealand. You know what? Why don't we talk about that for a minute? Let's talk about the travel with Vector and Cutco, because that's something that is huge, right? Yeah. It's a big part of our culture. It's definitely one of the things that I think personally that a lot of DMs and CSPs really look forward to as part 100%. As part of the career, as part of the culture. And so, what's the best Vector trip you ever went on? And what's one moment from the trip that you can share on the podcast without embarrassing yourself too much?
Gotcha.
Okay. We all have embarrassing moments on trips, right?
Yeah. Every trip is good for different reasons, right?
Right, yeah.
So part of me wants to say Germany because it was my first trip, and I remember the opening dinner at BMW World Headquarters, and that was really fulfilling.
Oh, wow.
I was like, holy cow, like, I just sell knives, dude. Like, yeah, I shouldn't be here. So that was awesome. Paris was really cool because that was Kristen and I's first national trip.
It's where you proposed, right?
That's Madrid.
Oh, Madrid was where you proposed.
So that's special for that.
Well, gosh, you got to say that. That's right. Yeah,
it should have been number one.
Yeah,
flip flop them, but
nah, that's okay. I'm sure Kristen knows.
Ireland was my favorite though, because obviously I have some Irish in me, and
me both, brother.
Yeah, I definitely get self-conscious about not knowing the languages well, but they spoke English. So that was great. Best thing about Ireland by far, though, is how much music is everywhere.
Oh, yeah?
unsurprisingly, since I love Colin so much, I love music, and just you go everywhere, and there's just live music, and it was just real down to earth people. So I'll share the story from there that I thought was just in retrospect pretty crazy. So you know the song Wagon Wheel, right?
Yeah.
All right. So he didn't originally write that. I want to say it was Bob Dylan.
Yeah, Darius didn't do that one originally.
Yeah, I think it was Bob Dylan. But I guess in Ireland, one of their biggest country stars did his cover. And we were in this pub just hanging out, and there was a live band, getting music everywhere. And then they started doing karaoke with the band, and they were singing Wagon Wheel. And some guy, just not sober at all, like volunteers to sing and just starts, everyone's losing their mind. He's just killing it, going crazy, forgets like a good chunk of the second verse. But the whole bar is like alive at this point. Like, there wasn't just people hanging out having a good time anymore. People are freaking out. And it's this country star, just super famous in Dublin, just randomly stumbled in, super drunk.
It turned out it was actually
him, and he sings Wagon Wheel just in this real small town pub.
So kind of like if Luke Bryan walked into a bar here and started singing, like that would.
Except very not sober,
So, yeah.
So that was a moment because everyone's freaking out. We're Americans, just tourists, pretty much, just hanging out. Like, this is fun, but like, what are we missing? Like, he's good, but like they're.
You found out you were in the presence of a superstar.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, very cool. Well, this is a question that I think is. I know you know the answer to this because we do this exercise. At least I've done it several times in Vector. If you could design your perfect day,
okay,
from start to finish, what would that look like?
Perfect day. So we're all encompassing, like
all encompassing. You're gonna wake up. You're gonna have some time in the morning. You're gonna have some time. You know, what's going on throughout your day as a businessman and as you're with your family.
Yeah, perfect day, man. I don't think a perfect day would involve work as much as I love work and love working with you. A perfect day probably wouldn't have much work in it. If anything, maybe giving a keynote or a speech, because I like public speaking a lot. And from a personal growth standpoint, I love when those lessons we talk about. I love when I get to speak to them and share that. That's really fun. Perfect day, man. I don't know.
It sounds like it would end with a concert and crowd surfing.
Concerts
right?
Involved. Music is somehow involved. Definitely some good friends. Kristen, Violet, obviously the family. I don't think I've ever done that exercise.
No? That's something to work on then, huh? Yeah. Because it's an interesting thing when you think about it, and because when you said it would involve some public speaking, a lot of people would say, well, that's work, right? So
right.
So, but what are you doing? In what capacity are you giving a public address, and who are you addressing, and what are you helping? So there's something to think about, right?
Right.
So I'll have to have you back on, and you'll have to be able to answer that question next time, right?
Yeah.
So I appreciate you coming in today, man. I appreciate you sitting down and talking to us. Is there anything you think our audience ought to know about you that we haven't covered yet? About you, or about Vector, or about the district manager, or the rep opportunity? I can tell you this, guys. Look, there's a lot of positive and negative about Vector marketing on social media. I can say that 30 years ago, I walked into an office and went through an interview that changed my life. And even if I hadn't made Cutco my career, the experience that I had that weekend after I started was amazing and valuable. And I think I made $100 my first weekend. That was it. But that experience that I had made such a difference in my life, and the learning that I've had since then, being involved with Cutco, has made a huge difference. And the reason I wanted to have Josh on today is because I want to help him. And locally here in Canton, Josh is the guy. if your college age son or daughter gets a letter from Vector Marketing, Josh is the guy who sent them that letter.
True.
And I believe in this guy. I think he's awesome, and I think you're awesome, man.
I appreciate
And
that.
I want to see the best of success for him, and I also want to see the young people in Stark County get the opportunity, because it is a life-changing experience, because it's sink or swim. You're going to have to take responsibility as a young person, and I know many parents that want to see that for their kids, and see them learn that responsibility and learn that you'll reap what you sow, and that is definitely true in this position. So anything else you want to add, Josh?
I second that, man. I always say selling Cutco is the best thing I ever did. Super small town from our South Pittsburgh, where I'm from. Not a lot of my friends or family. Like there's a lot of people that are still around there. And I'm sure, I'm not dogging their lives or anything, but it's just been cool to be able to do the things I've done. And because I sold Cutco, I met Kristen eventually. And because I have Kristen, now I have Violet. So, and I've been able to just be a way better version of me because of it. So I second what you say for sure.
That's awesome, man.
Wow.
Well, I think you're a pretty darn good version of yourself, man.
Nice.
So, I'm sure Kristen would agree.
Yeah, I hope so.
So we're going to have you back when I can twist your arm enough to get you to tell the story about how, you guys ended up with Violet, and also when we can tell more of the story about your perfect day, because you're going to go home and think about that. You can put that in one of your journals now, right?
I can.
Yeah. And I would say everyone should have, I'm going to tonight sit down and start to write my favorite things list, because I think that's a great idea, man. That is
awesome.
Definitely amazing takeaway for me from this conversation.
Yeah, dude, it's something so small. Yeah, I would love to come back and just really dig into just more of the lessons, because it's not just selling knives, right? We always say, like, that's just the vehicle. We do a lot more here.
Yeah. I 100% agree, man.
Yeah.
I 100% agree. If you are a business owner here in Stark County and you'd like to be featured on our podcast, please reach out to me. There's information in the description of the video here. And I'd love to sit down and talk with you the same way we sat and talked with Josh today. And look forward to seeing you here in the future. And we'll see you guys on the next one.